Hey,
Hello.
we're back.
Hello. We're back. Hello. I know y'all missed us. We had some crazy events happen lately. Let me do my intro. Hello, my name is Courtney Webb. I am the Strange.
And I'm Michael Zinn, and I am the Wonderful,
And
and
we
we
are the
are the
Strange and
Strange and
Wonderful.
Wonderful. Welcome. Yes, we are back. We had some crazy adventures. I had finally, after 2 years of avoiding it, the COVID caught up with me, and
Yeah.
and I got sick, and I was really only knocked out for about a day.
Well,
Feeling
that's
kind of
good.
sick and stuff, and then I started feeling better, but the test came back positive, so I had to
Oh,
quarantine
no.
myself, yeah, for 5 days, and whatever. It was all good. I was going a little stir crazy. We missed an episode for that, and then last week we were having some issues, right, with
With Pipsy,
connection,
yeah.
yeah, with
Yeah.
connection issues. So we've had a couple of weeks off here. I haven't seen you. You're looking good. Good to see you.
Thank you. And Dahlia looking nice as well.
Absolutely. How you doing, Dahlia? Good to see you as always.
She's
Um,
doing good.
so for you folks out there, you guys are watching The Strange and Wonderful. We're on episode 10 because we missed a couple, so we finally made it to number 10. So
Yeah,
I'm
we made it.
excited about that. We have a freaking really cool guest tonight. You have been doing such an amazing job bringing the strange and the wonderful to the table. You really have. I mean, I
Thank
know
you.
every week I tell you how cool this is, and the conversations are so amazing. And this week, because I had a couple of extra days, I started looking into our guest, and I was really excited. I was like, there's the sexual kind of strange and kinky side of the
Yeah.
show that we sometimes have, and that's certainly a part of the guest. And it's funny because we don't usually even get to that stuff,
No,
right?
we
We're
do
usually
not.
we're usually talking about all of the other stuff that our guests do, and some of the other stuff that today's guest does is that he's a lead singer in a goth band,
Man named
and
Harmjoy.
named
Yeah.
Harmjoy. And I'll let you do an introduction, but I was just so excited to get some music that I hadn't seen before, and isn't really even traditionally the style of music that I listen to. But I mean, having been around and being a musician, I've listened to all types of genres, so there were so many influences going on as far as the music goes. And then as an artist, as a video producer and a photographer, there was so much visual stuff going on, with the videos. So it was just such a great guest to explore. I will let you do a little bit of an introduction for today's guest. So tell us who you've got for us today.
Well, today, we got the wonderful and extraordinary and extremely kinky Danarama. The way I met him was through his educational kink videos, and I just decided to friend him one day, and he ended up following me, and then we just made a connection.
That's awesome. So you were online just kind of trying to learn about some kinks, like so Danarama has kink tutorials.
Yes, he does. It's called Kink University. It's
Kink
on
University.
It's on kink.com.
Awesome. I can't wait to ask him about that. So you just decided to friend him, and
Mhm.
you guys have been friends ever since, and
Yes,
then you
so
came up with this amazing show, Strange and Wonderful, which has just been
and
such a great journey.
yeah, and I decided to ask him like, "Hey, you want to be a guest on my show?" He's like, "Yes, I would." One little doll. I'm like, "Okay."
Awesome. Well, without any further ado, then I guess let's welcome to the show the strange and the wonderful Danarama. Welcome.
Hey, thanks everybody. Hey, thank you so much for having me on here, Michael. And great to see you, Dahlia, and you too, Courtney.
I think our cameras froze.
Yeah, you froze up for a second, but we could hear you.
Did
So
it
you're all
Okay,
freeze?
good.
well that's
Okay.
good.
How am I
Yeah.
doing? There we go. How's
At
that?
least
No,
me and Dahlia
you're
was
good. No. I think Courtney's got a little bit of some laggy issues, but she froze on a smile, so we get to see her smiling face. So we're good.
Oh,
with
that's
that.
good. Okay.
But yeah, welcome to the show, man. This is I don't know if you're familiar with this show, but Courtney came to me and she said, I know some pretty strange and wonderful people, and she was watching another show that I did about consciousness and spirituality,
Mhm.
and we started doing this show, and it's become like my second happy place. The live stream of consciousness was my first happy place, and this has become another happy place because I get to meet the strangest and the most wonderful people and just have these great conversations. So I'm super excited to talk to you tonight.
That's great. Well, my pleasure to be here. And again, thanks for the invitation.
You
You're
got
welcome. I mean, this is
So-
my first time speaking to you like over video chat because usually we just text.
Cool. The exciting face-to-face meeting.
Well, I
Well,
usually have Alexa read your text messages, so you have a very different voice.
that's awesome. That's so funny because we have been totally exploring AI and having conversations with AI and even like going deep and it's been kind of cool. So it's interesting you talk about those voices. But I want to really jump right in because there's probably so much that we can talk about with you. And like I said, the thing that caught my eye immediately was obviously we're all human and sexuality is something you're like, ooh, sex, and you get excited the second you see it or you smell it or you sense it. And I was like, ooh, I'm gonna like this guy. But the first couple of things that I saw when I googled you were your Harmjoy videos, your music videos for Harmjoy, the band. So why don't you tell us about Harmjoy? When did Harmjoy come about, and a little bit about the career?
Right. Well, I started. I have had a second life. I have before cancer and after cancer. So when I was in my 20s, my late 20s, I got Hodgkin's lymphoma and
Wow.
was given I was given a 50-50 chance of living 6 months. And that was almost 30 years ago, this coming up next month for the diagnosis. And so after I recovered from that, I sort of had a desire to get into things that it made me a lot less fearful of trying new things. And one of the things that I started trying to get into, ironically, was the goth scene, because I really liked the goth aesthetic. And so I finally just followed the goths into the goth club and realized it was the first place that I actually belonged because I loved the music and ironically I love the aesthetic. And so I just absorbed that and kind of made it my own to fit in. And I enjoyed so many aspects of that subculture because even though it seems like a community of exclusion and very cliquey, there's a camaraderie of outcasts that you get in the scene. And the music was so dark and dramatic. And that's the thing, is that I like my music and my wardrobe and a lot of and my movies and my literature. I like it served up with a lot of drama. And the goth scene is very full of that type of drama. Sometimes it's, bad emotional drama, but the fact that you add that kind of flair, it's kind of like adding fire to dessert. So it's just much more attractive. And so I was in the goth scene for a long time. I wasn't a singer, but I started going to music festivals in Germany and I just met people, and
more as a listener,
as a listener, as an attendee.
Right.
And
so who are the bands you were listening to? Like,
the bands I were listening to, I think the first bands I was listening to, ironically, the first CD that I bought was was from a guy named Daniel Meyer in Germany. It's a band called Harmjoy. And it was the first CD that I bought when I could finally afford a CD player. And because I heard it playing at Death Guild, the goth club. And that was in 1993 or 1994. And I just love that. And so I was listening to Harmjoy and Skinny Puppy and as other bands came on, like Covenant and there's Sisters of Mercy. So there are a lot of there's such a range to that music on the goth side, and then getting into the industrial music side. And the goth scene is actually where, because the club was held in the same spot that the BDSM club was held at, I would just go on another night, and then I realized that I got into the fetish scene that way. And so that's how I got into fetish, was through the goth scene, following the aesthetic, and then just sort of like playing along with it. Because I really wasn't into bondage or anything kinky myself, but again, it's another aspect of sexuality that's
Well,
served up
there's a
with
visual,
drama.
yeah, there's a visual aspect to it, I think, that
Yeah,
is very, very prominent. And I was going to say about the goth scene itself, it's a very creative scene. There's a lot of artsy people,
yeah,
people who are into art, like creating art, and obviously the goth scene kind of leans towards that darker side of art,
yeah.
but it's almost like there's so much creativity that comes out of it. I mean, it's like you said, in the fashion, in the aesthetic of every aspect of it, there's an art to it,
Yeah.
it seems so.
Yeah, that's exactly what I like is the artistic and the creative side of it. And that's the whole reason why I like BDSM, not to jump ahead to questions, but it's because that just like you said, the creative aspect to it. So to make my long answer a little bit shorter is about how I got into music is that, I went through college on a music scholarship. I was a concert clarinetist. And
Mhm.
so I really love music, and I grew up with parents that were really into symphonic music and jazz and creative music, and particularly switched on Bach, which was so Wendy Carlos.
Mhm.
She well, this is me listening to Wendy Carlos made I think she made the soundtrack to uh, I think it was it 2001 Space Odyssey? There was some aspect I can't remember
Hmm.
what movie she did. But anyway, but she did the soundtracks to a lot of movies. Oh, and I think A Clockwork Orange or something. Maybe
Oh,
I'm
I
getting
love
these all
that
wrong.
movie.
Right,
What's
right.
that?
I love
She
Clockwork
loves that
Orange.
movie.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
very soundscapey
Right,
music that's kind of, yeah, got that ambience to it.
right. So my dad got me into uh, my super Republican dad, who was 44 when I was born, got me into switched on Bach and was a big fan of Wendy Carlos and the fact that she had a sex change, which back in the 70s was big news. And
Sure.
so um, the the exposure that I had to all sorts of things in terms of different types of gender
Mhm.
and openness to different types of synthetic music and uh, the combination of electronics and classical music, all these intersections, all being very creative and open to new realities was a great upbringing that I had. And so music was always a part of my life, but I didn't start singing until my dad died. Uh, and
Really?
I bought a synthesizer and I started writing my own music. And so I have my own little project that I started producing called Spirit of the Staircase. In fact, if you go to, I can send you the link, but if you
Yeah.
search Spirit of the Staircase on Bandcamp, um,
Okay.
there's probably a few other Spirit of the Staircases now, but you can see like some of my music. So I started producing an album back in
Spirit
the
of
mid
the Staircase?
2000s, and I can send you the link. It's not a great. It's got horrible SEO for a band name. So
I just wanna put it up as a banner if this is right. Spirit of the Staircase, is that
yeah,
correct? There you
that's
go.
right.
Yeah.
So I think you could the uh, so the so I started writing my own music, and then my partner at the time on MySpace had an instrumental song playing on MySpace. They said, "Who is that? It sounds terrific." And she said, "Oh, it's this band. It's these couple of guys in Sweden." And so I reached out to them and I said, "Your music is great. It would sound great with the words. Do you have words?" And they said, "Well, we don't have any words for it yet." And I said, "Well, I'd be happy to would love to try writing words or vocals to it." And they
Awesome.
go, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." But then like a few months later, they said, "Hey, do you want to do vocals or try writing lyrics and singing to that song?" And they sent it to me and I recorded, and then they loved it. And they um, they sent me another song, and another guy in the band who is another idol of mine, by the way, by the name of Klaus Larson, from Leatherstrip,
Wow.
said, "You need to have this guy doing your vocals." And I had never sung before, so
Wow.
uh, it was kind of a new discovery for me, and I'm 44 at this
What a
point.
great story. That's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, so they said he needs to be your singer. So we started a band called Titans, and that's in so
I know that.
also has bad SEO because there's like movies and sports teams, and they're in Sweden. And so
Okay.
without having met them, we recorded an album and like 3 EPs, and we got a label. And the first so that was the band called Titans. And then so
Right.
I was going to Germany and Europe, and I'd never met them. I was going to Germany for music festivals, met another German guy who was friends with them, and he liked my voice, and he asked me if I wanted to work on a melodic goth industrial project he was doing. And so I said, sure. And then, so we started our own band called Harmjoy, and that's where Harmjoy came in. So Harmjoy is actually my third music project.
Amazing.
And
That
so
is
we recorded
awesome.
a couple of albums, and again, we did everything over the internet for both these international bands. They would write the music, they would send it over. I would write the melody music for it as a composer and write the lyrics to it, and then sing the vocals, and then send it back to them, and then they would mix it together, and then we'd come out with the songs. And so if you can, it's easy to find us on YouTube. If you search Titans Dried Out, you can hear one of our top songs, which was the video is actually me dancing in front of a green screen for a guy's student project where he went out to the desert in Joshua Tree and shot his daughters walking around through the desert. So it's kind of like a weird video, but he wanted to, it was basically a class project for him to combine green screen with some footage he shot of his family. So,
Cool.
but the song, but it gives you an idea of that type of music. So the Harmjoy German band was great because I actually got to go and do concerts in Germany. And so here I am. It's I'm now 50 years old, and I just turned 50, and I got hired by kink.com to be a director of a new website that we're starting called Kink University. And I was going to Germany to perform on my first concert. I had never sung on stage before. So and I met
what was what life like before all this happened? All
Yeah,
of a sudden,
I'm really
I mean, this
interested
is
about that.
I'm really interested in this whole story because of almost how it crosses over to the live stream of consciousness, and wondering how spiritual you are, because you really just seem to be in the flow. I mean, literally, you know, that's where you are.
Well, I appreciate that, and I see, I listen, and I try to be open. Oh, here's my kitty cat. Hi, baby kitty.
Oh my goodness!
Courtney, this is, I know what you're here now. Now I've got to look like the show.
Oh,
Here's
yeah.
me looking like the
Look at
baby.
that.
So come on, kitty.
Yeah.
If the cat cooperate.
There we go.
Oh, that
that's
is
cute.
awesome.
Oh,
Your
That-
selfie
love
time.
that.
Hold on. Let's get this going on here. Baby kitty. Sorry for the interruption. I know this is
No,
horrible.
no, do it,
No,
do
you're
it,
good.
do it.
Horrible
Yeah.
manners for
This is great.
come on, kitty. There we go. And yay.
Yay!
Totally.
Okay, cool. All right, enough of that
What's
shenanigans. So
what's cat's name?
this cat, one of two, this is called Zodiac. Both my
Oh,
cats were
Zodiac.
adopted
Oh,
and from kill shelters, and they were previously named. This one was named Zodiac. They named all the kittens in the kill shelter after serial killers because they were on death
that's
row.
cool. Interesting.
So I kept the name.
Oh.
So the second cat I got was Son of Sam.
In
And
case
so
people are wondering, that's the picture we're emulating right there, the Courtney's drawing of today's episode.
Zodiac and Son of Sam. That is interesting.
Yeah. So back on the spirit. So to answer your question as far as the spirituality of it, I'm not necessarily saying that I was necessarily metaphysical or anything about it, but I did have an open mind. It was really into creative visualization when I was going through cancer treatment, and that's a process of where you picture yourself healing, and so you come up with a creative metaphor that's your own. And in my case, it was white condors that were eating a pig that was baking in the sun, and that the pig was my tumor, and so.
Wow.
And the white condors were my white blood cells, and so
Taking it away.
I could always tell how my treatment was going by what I would see when I started the visualization. Like I could tell how my white blood cell count was just by how many condors there were flying around, and it was, so that's about as metaphysical as it gets. And my life is sort of like
totally
that too, because I'm a real believer in you manifesting what you think of, for good or bad.
Mhm.
And when I've pictured myself in positive situations, they've turned out. And, when I've worried myself into negative situations, it's turned out as well. I mean, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are correct.
Exactly. I love that saying.
And the so that's kind of how I got into it. But let me just quickly get into past the Harmjoy thing
Okay.
and that music
You're good.
aspect, because getting into Harmjoy, here's where it all comes together. Is
Okay.
because I'm going to pull up my Twitter photo just so I can show you. This is an actual photo from concert. So a few years ago, maybe 5, 6, probably 6 years ago, the man whose CD that I first bought, Daniel Meyer, I ran into him at a show when he was playing in San Francisco, and he said, "Hey, da, da, da." And we'd actually played at concerts together on the same stage, but not at the same time.
Okay.
And so I said, "Hey, remember me from Etropolis Festival, this and that," and we started talking. He invited me to come sing with him in this Electro All Stars show, which is basically like a karaoke party where all these great where selected band members from various bands that are playing at the German Music Festival would sing karaoke in front of 1,000 people.
Wow.
And he invited me to sing there. And so this is a picture of that. If you can see this,
Oh yeah, I saw that
I
on.
love that
Yeah.
photo.
so that's him. That's him in the background. And so this is a real imposter syndrome moment for me, because I'm showing. That's me showing the crowd pictures of my cats, because I happen to mention that this is my cat's favorite song I'm about to
Right.
sing.
Right.
And so
Oh,
that's actually, I was literally showing them that picture. It's a live photo, but in the background, I just want to see how complex. So here I am. Just imagine how I must have felt on stage with the man that had exposed me, whose music exposed me to the goth scene that I became a part of.
Changed your life. Yeah.
It changed my life.
yeah.
And he's backing me with electronics as I'm
Amazing.
singing on stage with him. I just cannot tell you just how moving and what an amazing circle of experience that was. And
I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
imposter syndrome was like going crazy, and it still is.
And if I remember correctly, that photo, they made it into like a meme, right? They were like, had to like turn on the goth girls at the show, right?
Oh yeah. I had it. Had to turn on. It's had to turn on goth
That
girls.
was great. I thought that was hysterical. That's awesome.
But yeah,
Wow.
so that's my
Amazing.
music history story there. But more so, the reason I want to mention is just how stuff really comes around if you let it and if you're open to it. And
Yeah.
there are a lot people ask me, well, you do so many different things. How do you do that? It says, well, I just say yes to what sounds good.
Right.
And a lot of people have turned him down to sing on stage. And a lot of people might be too, I was afraid, I didn't have a lot of experience on stage. And so to be able to sing on stage with one of my musical idols, that's a very scary thing and easy to say no to. But
Right.
I think surviving a life-threatening disease gives you a little bit more leeway to say, what the hell,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
go ahead and try it.
And I think that's what I found inspiring about your being, your I want to say your character, but I don't really even feel like your character is a character. Your character is you.
Oh, thank you.
And I feel like, for me personally, I know the last couple weeks have been a struggle.
Yeah.
And personally, kind of like, why am I here? Well, what's the purpose of all of this? What am I doing with my life? And the universe talks to me, as I'm sure it talks to you. And you know, uh, the things that I was being told were just be,
Mhm.
just be. You know what I mean? And that's what's so amazing about this moment right here, this show, what we're doing right now, is because I get to talk to people, and I feel like that's why the conversations are so inspirational, because it's people that society or there may be like this norm that you say, hey, this person has a relationship with a doll, and they're just going to be like, what is that? And immediately, that's the sound of their mind shutting, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, this whole thing has been so mind-blowing to me, and the people like yourself are just so amazingly genuine and articulate, and again, can I play a little bit of some of your video music? I
Oh,
could probably
sure.
play a couple of seconds of it without getting in trouble with YouTube or
Right.
Facebook.
Hopefully not.
But
It's okay. I own the copyright.
yeah,
Okay, we're good.
this is one of the videos that I turned on, and again, immediately every aspect of what I was looking at just inspired me, because I was like looking at something real, even down to the point, like I said, like goth music isn't traditionally my kind of music, but I certainly listened to bands like Depeche Mode growing up, and I'm familiar with some of the aesthetic of the oral aesthetic of how it sounds, and when you start singing, your voice is just so haunting, and again, not the type of voice that I grew up listening to as far as musical, but it is so musical and so perfect, and it's just, I'm just gonna play this. This is one of the first ones that I saw. And again, immediately I started thinking of bands like Depeche Mode.
Just a bit about a background about this is that Olaf, who's in Germany, is shooting his own footage. This is him. And when you see me, I'm shooting my footage in the basement sets of kink.com.
Oh, wow.
And that, even that part of the story makes it so much more amazing.
Yeah, and we're both shooting in our workplaces.
That's amazing, and I love that too. That aspect of technology, that you can record your parts, he can record his part. It seems like it's lagging, but it all comes together in this seamless piece of art. It's just, it's amazing. It's struggling to play it a little bit, so I'm going to stop it. But you have such a that particular song. There's such a, what's his name, Dan Gahan, Depeche Mode. Like immediately hit me. I was just like, wow, like you could just hear the inspiration and the feelings. Goth music and I want to say new wave too, because I guess I kind of feel like there's a bit of that new wave. Yeah. And you were talking about some of the other genres, the industrial stuff too.
Yeah,
there's such a feeling involved. It just evokes such a feeling for me. Sonically, visually, everything. It's just amazing stuff. I wish it was playing a little bit clearer.
Great, thank you. Yeah, interesting. I was really lucky for so many reasons at the time too, because when the album came out and was shooting the videos, I was working at kink.com, and so I had access to the cameras and the lighting and all the sets of this amazing dramatic adult film studio to work on after hours. And so it really was terrific. And unfortunately, now that I'm not working there anymore, I don't have access to sets like that. In fact, that building got sold, and so those sets don't even exist.
Wow. Man, it makes me so sad. I'm like, when I got the news, I'm like, no, I want to visit now.
Yeah, so I was really lucky at the time, and took advantage of that. And the uniforms that I'm wearing, they had uniforms. Those are East German border guard uniforms. And this story was about East Germany. What happened is that after Germany fell in World War II, the Russians moved in and split the country, split off a piece and called it East Germany. Mm-hmm. So that became a communist country, and they put up the Berlin Wall. And so the guards on the Berlin Wall were wearing those uniforms that I was wearing there. So this is sort of a tribute, that's not a German depiction. It's a depiction of 1960s Cold War East Germany, because the theme of the band, the aesthetic, the first album was titled The Silver Lining of the Mushroom Cloud, because all our videos and everything that we want to do had, as far as an aesthetic, we were sticking with the Cold War aesthetic from like
Mhm.
the late 1950s to the 1960s.
Right, right, right,
So you'll
right.
see a lot of our costuming based on that.
Amazing. And it's just so, I mean, again, talk about being in the flow, that you were just working at that building and you had those resources, and you probably didn't even realize the beauty of what you were creating, or maybe you did, but you were just doing it because you were in that moment and doing it. And then, again, as somebody who is discovering this later, I'm just like so happy to have a treasure trove of stuff to look through and be like, ooh, look, check this one out. Ooh, there's another
Yeah.
one. I got a whole little what do they call the hole to go down, the rabbit hole. I got a whole
Right.
rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah.
So
Well, your
well,
philosophy of just be is a great one. And I think everything that it did to create those videos and the music and all is harness that same philosophy, because you look around and you see, what do you have available?
mhm, mhm,
And, I was very, very fortunate to have lucked out to be in a position where I had the chance to make a lot of new ideas come true very creatively. But
mhm,
even without those, when you work with what you have, uh, great stuff happens. And
mhm.
when you're true to the materials that you have available to you, um, and use them to the maximum of your creativity, then really amazing things can happen regardless of your resources.
Right, right. Totally agreed. Totally agreed. Well, I am having such a blast talking to you. I want to give Courtney a little bit of a chance. I know Courtney likes to prepare some questions that are a little bit more formal, like an interview. So she's going to ask you a question or two. And then I think we're going to start to try to prod you a little bit about the kink.com stuff and see
Yeah.
see where that
All
see where
right.
that all comes in.
Okay, Mr. Danarama, what is strange and wonderful about yourself?
Oh, well, there are two things. I don't know. I don't really, I think, what's the wonderful thing about myself is just the fact that I like to apply creativity to everything that I do. And what's strange is that um, I tend to do it in a way that is what a lot of people it doesn't apply to the same norms of social acceptability as far as getting a business loan or anything like that, because I would love to make the stuff that I would love to make in terms of creative videos and such, and that there is such a limiting factor of uh, what you can do for getting bank loans, or
Mm-hmm.
what is necessarily allowable on social media,
Mhm,
so that it really limits if you are trying to do a creative process that involves anything that is too counterculture, too sexual, or too um, uh, or too agnostic, if that makes sense.
mhm, mhm,
So I think we're constrained a lot in what framework we have to work with, and
mhm, mhm.
if we want to come out with a great record or do a great video or create a great movie, because a lot of people that are on the fringes of that really get restricted and tamped down.
Right.
So um, and just me personally, about what might be strange about me is um, the fact that I guess one strange thing about me is that I have synesthesia. So
Wow.
I have my senses crossed
Mhm.
sometimes, where I can
Explain that to the audience. I know what it is, but
yeah. So synesthesia is when your senses, we all have like your taste, touch, smell, sight, and sound and hearing. Um, for most people, what they see, what they feel, and I do that too. But very often, my senses cross, and so when I feel sensation, I see it,
Oh,
and when I see motion, I hear it,
mhm,
and when I hear things, I see them, and uh, it can be it's what a lot of people report under the influence of certain drugs. And I guess one strange thing about me too is that I've never done any drugs. And that's primarily because I'm afraid of fucking up this synesthesia. I don't want to take anything
Wow.
that might make it harder to just naturally experience that, because it's a nice thing. Because if you were to just, because when my partner scratches my back, I see these amazing images that just come out of nowhere that are different all the time and are either hyper realistic or the most abstract art you can or even cannot imagine. And
Wow.
it's indescribable. And so that's something I'm really happy to have accidentally going on in my neurodivergence. And I just wish that there were a way to share that, uh,
Wow.
so that other
And how
people
long
would
have you been
experience that
aware
too.
of this synesthesia? Have you had that since childhood, or?
Well, it's always been, yeah. I mean, it's always been a part of me. So I didn't realize it was not normal. I didn't, until when, as a kid, having arguments with people about what color the letter M and the letter E are.
Right.
Uh, when they were drawing it and going, no, the M has to be dark red.
Right.
And because that's just how words were in my mind, is that they were a much more complex visual thing.
You would hear colors and
Yeah.
things
So,
like that.
yeah, exactly. So it was a long time before I realized that not everybody was like that.
Wow.
And that you couldn't see what
Right.
what does this look like? You know?
Right. So you were afraid to do drugs because you didn't want to mess that up.
Yeah.
Cool. Hey, listen, I love all paths, you know what I mean? The completely drug-free ones, and then the people who are doing ayahuasca every night, you know, they've all got interesting stories to tell. You know.
Yeah.
So,
and I don't fault people that are at all. I think that's wonderful that they can experience that, and I have a little bit of envy of that, but I'm so far down the line now that it's almost like I'm kind of stubborn,
right.
In that regard, and I go, well, I've gone this far without trying it, so keep me away from that stuff.
Well,
So,
you know, I think that's another thing that I admire, and that energetically is a part of what we talk about and do, and that is, like, you know yourself. You don't question. You're not questioning yourself, and I think most normal people who aren't strange and wonderful, you know, they're stuck in this kind of paradigm that they were brought up in, you know, which is questioning themselves, and I'm supposed to be this, I'm supposed to be that. And I think it's people like yourself who you don't question that, and that comes through genuinely through who you are. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, well, thanks for saying that. And the reality is I question myself all the time, as I'm a notorious worrywart and
Me too.
and totally insecure. But I think courage, courage is not a lack of fear. Courage is going forward with the fear.
Right.
And
absolutely. Yeah.
so that's the same way that I do, is that it looks like I don't question myself, but I act despite the questions. And then I hyperanalyze after the fact.
Yeah. And I think it's a bit of both. Like I was saying, I was going through a rough patch, you know, kind of questioning, like, what's it all about, this, that, the other thing. But previous to that, I wasn't. Like, I know that it ebbs and flows, you know what I mean? I'm a human being, so I know that there's going to be days that I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And there's going to be days that are like, I know everything that's going on, you know, and I'm connected to it all, and la di da di da. So you know, I'm kind of prepared for that kind of stuff, you know. And I feel like you are too as well. Certainly, you know, when I say you're confident, I don't mean like, well, you never worry and you never get depressed. You're a human being. But I feel like, you know, I don't know anything about your lifestyle, how much money you made, how much fame you made, but when I see what I look at on Google, your music and the things that you are doing, they all come across to me so perfectly genuine and just like, you know, and to me that's significant, because I do know a lot of people who are trying to do what you do, but it may not be their authentic selves. They think it is, but it may not be, so it doesn't come across that way. You know what I mean? They're falling short somewhere because that's not who they really are.
Yeah, I think it's important to find your archetype, once you find out who you are, and then go down the rabbit holes that are in your lane, if you like. And I'm not telling people how to live their lives, but I'm just, as you're saying that, wondering if that may be the issues. If you want to be, if you really want to, be genuine to yourself, but a lot of people, it's hard to discover who you are. I mean, I went through, part of it is that I just like got old, I'm like, it's the things that I do, I wish I'd started 30 years earlier.
Sure.
Like the music and the goth scene and the fetish and all this stuff like this. And so, but I don't let that hold me back. And it took a long time. It took me 30 years before I found a place where I felt like I belonged. Because in my 20s, I was cripplingly shy. And I had 2 girlfriends during my entire 20s until I was 31. And my girlfriend was 10 years older than I was. And I was a completely different person, really restrained by self-doubt, but still with the desire to do creative things and try new things. And I had the privilege of living in, beyond just the natural privilege of being like a white male, and being able to have a decent job, that but also more so the privilege of the fact that I was living in San Francisco. And San Francisco is a privilege because a big city gives you the opportunity to try new things. If there's something you want to learn, if there's a class you want to take, if there is an organization you want to be a part of, whether it's political or social or religious or any other kind of hobby, you have access to that. And this is long before the internet. And so I think I would be a much different person, probably not even alive, if I had stayed in Sparks, Nevada.
Okay.
So I think it's fortunate because I lived in a large city that had access to trying new things. But now with the internet, people have online access to try new things. And so it's a much better opportunity for people to discover who they are by exploring the things that they like and that resonate, and finally find the place that they belong.
Okay.
And
So
I know,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, because I know with the wonderful world of the internet, it has helped me build who I am. And made me feel, oh, I'm not alone.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I tell people all the time, like, about this show and about Courtney, and again, I almost expect people to react and be like, what is that? But I'm getting such a great reaction from people who are like, oh, really? That sounds actually really cool, and they're starting to be interested. And I mean, there is a lot of movement for people to really be their authentic selves, and for other people to be open to the idea that, hey man, somebody might not be something that you understand, but that's okay. And that's the good side of what's happening right now. Obviously there's the other side of it that people aren't understanding, and we won't even talk about those people. They're not welcome here. But that kind of brings me to, I see we actually haven't been paying attention, but I see Sunshine is out there saying hello.
Hi,
Friend.
Sunshine.
Sunshine's out there, so colorfully connected.
So Courtney, I didn't mean to cut you off. You probably have a few other questions.
Yes, I do. Okay. Question number 2. What is the meaning behind your name, Dananama?
Oh, Danarama was an accident. I had a pen pal who lived in Salt Lake City, who was in the goth scene there, and we would write back and forth actual letters, and she used to call me DANARAMA. But when the internet came out and I needed an email address, I quickly typed in DANARAMA as my email address, and I put it all A's accidentally. So everyone gets it wrong now and calls me Danorama, but I did Danarama, like Bananarama.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from. And then when I started, so it was basically my first email address, Danorama. And I was and didn't think much of it. And then I got into the PDSM scene and I started going around by the name Lynx, like a cat, meow, because I'm like into
Yeah.
cats. And I had like gray, this gray is natural. So I had, gray tufts of hair here. So everybody called me Lynx. And so I was into
Oh,
that. But then I
that's
thought
cool.
Lynx is kind of like a lame name. No, I'm sorry, not a lame name. It's a very short name, but it's hard to get. It's
Hard to get as an email. Yeah.
yeah, it's hard to get as an email, and so it doesn't really. There are probably a lot of people that call themselves Lynx, and so I just went accidentally, just somehow just went back to Danarama, and then have stuck with that.
Cool.
Okay.
Cool. Speaking of hair, by the way, Deb on Hair says hello. Deb on Hair did
Hey.
my haircut today, and I'm really kind of into this whole like short on the side thing. I really like it, so I'm kind of I keep going a little bit more each time. I had a ponytail for the longest time, and so now I'm finally like looking a little bit different. So I just wanted to give Deb a shout out for cutting my hair today. I got
Looks great.
a wedding to go to this weekend, so I was excited to get it done.
All right. Remember, the rule is, Michael, you can't look better than the groom, so watch out.
Oh yeah, I better watch out. I'll cut my face or something if I have to.
Oh no.
But so go ahead. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. I won't do that. Go ahead, Courtney. What else you got for Dan?
Okay. So how long have you been a educator in the BDSM classes and scene?
Well, I got into bondage back in the like 1995 at rope bondage, just because I had a goth girlfriend who wanted to get tied up when I was a climbing instructor, and so I had rope and new knots, and I tied her up, and she was so thrilled. Just the effect of combining rope bondage and sex was so mind blowing for her that I realized, oh my gosh, this is a cool magical thing.
There was a creative outlet in it for
yeah,
you.
there was a creative outlet, and I just went on and got more creative with it. So I started, after a while, I started rigging for photographers, and I was asked to rig models for a photo shoot back in the late 90s, in 1998, and there's another guy named JD who was also rigging models, and we saw we had the same tying style, and we became friends, and we decided to maybe form a little business together. So I came up with the name Two Knotty Boys with a K, and made us business cards, and we started going to clubs and tying people up for like $5. We'll tie you up.
So freaking awesome.
And
Talk about manifesting a lifestyle, right?
Yeah, and then finally somebody asked us to teach a workshop on bondage, and so we taught a workshop together at a coffin factory in San Francisco, surrounded by airbrush coffins of Jerry Garcia. And JD and I are riffing back and forth, taking turns teaching some of our favorite bondage pieces with rope bondage. And this is back before there were any books on bondage. There was Screw the Roses, Send Me the Thorns, and it only had a little bit of bondage stuff in that. And then there was the Ashley Book of Knots, and that's it.
Okay.
And so we started teaching classes, and I came up with these step-by-step photos that we started using as handouts for the class. And then I said, we can make this a book. And so we came out with a book called Showing You the Ropes. And then it just kind of went from there. So I'd say that and so we came out with a couple of books and went all over the US and Canada teaching bondage classes together as Two Knotty Boys. And then we took a break when I started working for kink.com, and he wanted to raise a family. So we kind of took a break for a few years there. And then we got back together again in 2018, and have been teaching workshops together ever since. But in the meantime, I was teaching my own workshops as an instructor. So I guess I've been teaching workshops since 1998 with our first Two Knotty Boys class.
Wow. So I want to kind of clarify a couple of things here, or maybe just kind of get on the same base page. You said you got into bondage. You had a girlfriend who wanted to be tied up. You were a climber, so you had some ropes. So you got into bondage. Now, I mean, I guess I'm imagining bondage is kind of a broader term that is just anything that has to do with constraints, whether it be ropes or like latex or more complex equipment, but I know for me as a photographer, there was a period that I was intrigued by shibari.
Yeah.
which is a Japanese form of bondage, I guess. Can you clarify what bondage versus shibari might be, or
Well,
like how?
shibari is just basically the Japanese word for to tie, and so, but there are different types of shibari. Like even Two Naughty Boys is shibari. If you were to use a Japanese name for it, a lot of people are, but there are specific types of shibari that are more traditional Japanese, like seminawa um, and hojijutsu and ichinawa, and so different. There are different types of rope bondage that are specific to Japanese style. And those usually use natural fiber ropes, like like uh, like mostly hemp and jute. But the bondage that JD and I started tying, a lot of people don't consider shibari, or certainly not traditional Japanese at all, because when we started, this was back in the in the late 90s, when there wasn't a lot of access to like now we live in a wide, wonderful world of ability to source materials and ropes from
You
Japan
get that
and
stuff on
Germany
Amazon
and
now, yeah.
Egypt. Yeah, so you can buy bondage rope on Amazon. Not that you should, but
No, I'm not. I wasn't endorsing. I'm just
yeah.
saying.
But the whole point is that it just shows you how commercialized and easy access
Yeah,
it is.
yeah,
But
yeah.
back when we started, we wanted to have something accessible for people, and so get whatever rope you can find, and we suggest you get solid braid nylon rope, because you could buy 100-foot bundle of it at Dom Depot for $20
Wow.
and then cut it in 4 pieces and come to class and you're good. And so that's why we got the reputation as the nylon guys. And but the whole point is that you can use whatever materials you have at hand, and using the same sort of techniques with a few adaptations, you can get a lot done in terms of bondage. But it's all a matter of using that as a springboard for your own creativity. And that's what I think is great about bondage, is that BDSM has such a wide spectrum of things that you can do, and you don't have to do it all. If you don't like rope bondage, if you prefer to have like steel bondage, like handcuffs and stuff, you can go with that. Or if you like to have zip ties or latex or whatever you like to use to bind your partner, or if you don't like to bind them with anything more than the command of your voice, that's entirely acceptable, as long as within the consensual within the consensual desires of your partner that you're playing with. And so that's the great thing about kink, is that there is so much to explore. There's so many techniques to learn, and you don't have to do it all. And you can find what about it appeals to you and learn more about that.
I think you brought up something really super important there, and that is the idea of the atmosphere, and it being a consensual atmosphere, and the respect that exists there, because it's kind of anti what's the right word I'm looking for?
Anti-sex.
No, it's just like it doesn't seem very natural to what it is that's actually happening. You
Oh
know what
yeah,
I mean? So like
conservative and stuff like
if
that.
you're choking someone and you're constraining somebody, the idea that that's consensual, that they want that and can appreciate it, that's very, very important. But I think that maybe somebody looking at it from the outside might not understand that. That's kind of what I'm saying. It's important that people understand that the community that you exist within is very respectful, even though maybe some people don't understand what's happening there. So I guess I kind of wanted your spin on that, your take on that, your words of advice on that, just in general.
Right. Well, the public doesn't necessarily understand this from an outside view, but there's a big difference, and it's a very clear difference between abuse and BDSM.
Oh yeah.
With abuse, someone is doing something to somebody that they don't want to happen. They're saying, stop, don't do this. With BDSM, they're saying, please, please do this to me. I want this.
Right.
It's like, hit me harder or do this. So a lot of people don't realize that there's a big desire of a lot of people to experience these new and dramatic sensations for whatever reason. They're not messed up. It's not like, now it's more like a parapsychology. It used to be considered a disorder, but it's not considered a disorder to be into
That's
this sort
good.
of kink. But because I realize that so many people are into this, that
Right.
there has to be something to it. But the whole point is that not everybody likes everything. But if somebody has this desire to be bound, it may be for different reasons. Because a lot of reasons, like, one of the reasons why bondage was so important to my first partner that she expressed to me, and this sort of led my view of the beauty of it, is that when you're restrained, this is her perspective, when you're restrained, you don't have to do anything back, and you can just enjoy what's happening to you. And you also free yourself from the guilt of the fact that what you're doing is really dirty. And so she had been raised very religiously. And so the fact that if she was held down by it, it helped her deal with this.
She's not in control.
Yeah, because
Right,
she's
right.
out of control, even
Right.
though she was in control, because anytime that she would say, don't do it,
Tie me up
they would
first.
say to her, yeah, then it would stop. And to be
Right.
able to do that in a realm where, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people there's a lot of abuse in relationships, and a lot of particularly in the way that people were raised in their initial sexual experiences.
Right.
And sometimes BDSM is a positive way to sort of take back the night, because you know that you can
Right.
go through these experiences with a partner that will stop if you say the safe word, and that does care about you, and that does. And so a lot of people really like to go to a very dark place in their BDSM.
Right.
And the negotiation that you have, and the clear boundaries, and sticking with what you agreed to do before you got into the scene, and not trying to make up the rules as you went on when you're in the heat of the moment in it. And then having aftercare afterwards. So negotiation, consent, listening, staying within your boundaries, and aftercare, those are aspects that are really beneficial to society as a whole, but you don't see
Absolutely.
that in vanilla sex.
You know,
So it's
that's actually
ironic. Yeah, it's ironic
that's
that
actually what I
BDSM
was
is
gonna
actually safer than.
that's what I was gonna say. It's almost like a much more, even more respectable and safer environment than many people's actual relationships, because maybe they don't communicate with their partner, exactly what their needs are or their wants are or their comfort level. Maybe they're going beyond their comfort level because they want to please their partner, but they're not comfortable and they don't talk about it.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean?
a lot of mainstream sex is purely selfish.
Right.
So they're
Yeah.
in it, but in BDSM, it's an exchange
Collaboration.
of power,
Yeah.
and you negotiate that and everything. Now, it's not to say there aren't bad actors that think that they can use BDSM as a way to sanction their own abusive tendencies. But those people, the nice thing about BDSM is that it's based on a lot of things, including reputation, communication, and so lubrication, communication, and reputation. Those are all very important things in kink. And um, luckily, it's an environment that is it does a lot of, goes to great lengths to make sure the people involved in it are safe, or as safe as possible,
Right.
and that bad actors don't last long.
Awesome. I
That's
want to
the
let Courtney ask you more questions, but I do have another question for you, because I did see somewhere where you were talking about you're going to be directing some content, some erotic content, or you are directing it, or you have been directing it, but it says ethically, so like you're ethically sourced or ethically producing this. Can you just expand upon that a little bit? Like, I'm sure that's related to what we're talking about.
Right. Well, sure. Most of what it is, there's I think any sort of filming that you do, particularly intimate filming in an adult realm, it needs to be based on negotiate, just like BDSM, particularly if it involves BDSM, in negotiated limits, and ideally fulfilling another person's fantasy. So not just trying to find, so not because so unethical adult film is film that is shot where any of the participants are not consenting to what's going on, or
Gotcha.
their boundaries are being pushed.
Right.
So it's a very simple process it's a very simple formula of you simply make sure you talk about what you're going to do, what you like to do, and make sure that everything that you do is discussed and that they actually genuinely and enthusiastically want to do this. And if not, find something else or don't do that.
Right.
And then of course, making sure that the person is appropriately compensated to what you agree on, and that you provide the aftercare necessary, and that you're just being as human and genuine to the other person's needs always, and to realize that their needs come first. And then if at any point that a shoot has to stop, or that they're uncomfortable, then that's the end of it. We'll never be seen. You don't have to finish the shoot, don't do anything, and just start applying the whatever care they need at that particular moment, because it's a matter of shooting it from the other person's respect and boundaries first, rather than just what you think would make a good picture.
Right. Awesome.
Wow.
Great answer. I want to let
And
Courtney answer a couple of questions.
I'm sorry. And like in my
That's
own
all right.
opinion, well, it's not really in my opinion. I think it's more of my belief. Because I think more people in the adult industry need to be that way.
Yeah.
You don't force people to do something that they're not comfortable with.
Right.
They need to be more respectful. Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it seems like, and that's the thing that I'm kind of interested in the sex industry in my own capacity, and that's part of it too. Is I do feel like there's this extra level of respect for that person's kinks, whatever it might be, that person's desires. Maybe they like to get held down, maybe they don't like to get held down, whatever it might be.
Yeah,
So
and it's important to make sure that they're genuinely eager to do this, and not just like doing it because they need content or they need to do this as a thing, because that's a possibility too. You really have to sniff out to make sure that people are genuinely interested in what they're doing, and to start the process by asking them what they would like to see, what they want to do. That's a great angle to take with it. And finally, just to have a philosophy of don't be attached to outcome. So don't have your eyes so fixed on, we've got to have this shoot, we've got to do this. Go into the realization, start off with those reasons that you may not get to finish it.
Right.
And that takes the stress off of everyone, because if you get an attachment to outcome, then that's going to cause problems.
Right. Well, you seem so super easy to get along with, so easygoing. I want to let Courtney finish up with some of her questions, because we are at an hour already, and we haven't even really gotten into the kinky stuff.
Okay.
I love it. It's so far.
Yeah, no, and we don't necessarily have to stop right away. We could definitely continue to talk. I did bring up your Instagram here, just because, again, visually this is so great. I love the comment here, learning there's no limit to innovation if you aren't afraid of looking a little silly. I love that. I think that's awesome. Looks like a lot of fun. Looking forward to seeing some of this content.
Thanks.
When you finally get it done. I wanted to share with you a couple of things that I did real quick, and then Courtney, I'm going to let you take over. But I had a friend, and I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for this or not. Hopefully I won't. I had a friend who had a girlfriend who introduced me to shibari. I had expressed an interest in shooting some shibari, and my friend's like, "Oh yeah, my girlfriend, she can tie herself up and she'll let you take pictures." And so this was from my first shibari photo shoot.
That's beautiful.
Great.
And that was a lot of fun. And then that one is the one I might get in trouble for. And then I had another friend come over, and we did a little bit of fun photography shooting over here. And So this is some of the stuff I was working with. So learning these knots and how to tie this stuff, it wasn't. I don't think it was your stuff. It was on the internet, but it was a cool little experience.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about it, is that there's an artistic aspect to it, and you can get as artistic as you want.
Yeah.
It's not just about, duct taping someone's hands together, although that kink is okay too if they like that.
Exactly. And I guess as an artist, for me, there's a very visual aspect to it. So as you can see in the photos, there's like lighting and things like that.
Those are great shots.
That are important. So awesome. I just wanted to share some of my work with you.
Thank you.
So Courtney, what else have you got for DANARAMA?
Okay. What made you the director of Kink University, and are you still directing to this day?
Well, I was very fortunate. I started working at kink.com. I was very fortunate to do that because actually, even before Knotty Boys, I rigged a photo shoot I rigged bondage photos for photographers in the apartment of Peter Ackworth, who's the CEO of kink.com. And he had these servers under his desk in the marina where he had a new website that he was starting called hogtied.com. And so I had actually met Peter, and then I even did one of the early photo shoots. I think my model number is number 83. And then that was back in the late 90s. So I actually had rigged with Peter before, and then went on with Knotty Boys. And then just being, I was lucky because when the head of kink.com and JD and I of Knotty Boys would travel in the same circles, it really comes down to be who you know. And then I got invited they bought this great castle called the Armory in San Francisco, and they started a new website called the upperfloor.com, and I was invited to the opening shoot of that because I knew several people that worked there, and they invited me up there. And so I got familiar with the cast and the crew, and then I started dating somebody who worked at the Armory, and so I would go over there, and so I was in the shoots all the time as a guest, just to be around my partner. And then so I became a known face, and knowing Peter helped a lot. And then in 2014 he wanted to reopen the educational. He'd started doing a educational website, an aspect for kink back in 2006, and so but he hadn't really. He'd done a few test shoots for that, but nobody really wanted to take on that role because it's education that's not sexy enough for the directors. So he basically asked me, because he saw me teaching classes all the time, which I would teach at the Armory. So he came to a class of mine, a rough sex workshop, and was so blown away. He said, "Oh, I'd love it if you did that for kink.com." And so we negotiated, and he offered me a job to see if I could get the educational aspect of kink.com up and running. And I did. Wow. But then 3 years later, for economic circumstances, they kind of had to cut back production, and they ended up, and so a lot of the productions now, the directors are independent, and so I didn't want to have I actually have I have other skills that I did before working at Kink in the mainstream world, and so I just kind of went back to my old career sweet spot, and then so. I went back to doing that. And so just basically teaching classes on the side as a hobby, and occasionally doing shoots with other people. I was like rigging as a technical top. And then now people keep asking me, you should shoot your own content. And so I have a couple of partners that say, "Oh yeah, help me make videos." And so by helping them make videos for their websites, I'm kind of getting my feet back into the directorial side and the cinematography side again too.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, too bad you're not on the East Coast. I would love to work with you. It would be awesome to get you to teach me some tying techniques. I've never been able to suspend. I would love. I was actually I worked for World Famous Tattoo Inc. for a couple of years, and I did all of the graphic design for their trade shows.
Oh, great.
Which led me to a friendship with a group called the Skindicates, and they were a suspension group. So they were basically doing piercing and suspension, and I was so overwhelmingly intrigued by what they were doing, and I was asked to do a couple of photo shoots of people would hire them, to come to their house and rig them up and suspend them. And to me, it was almost like watching a tribal ceremony, where somebody might be doing something like ayahuasca or some sort of drug that puts them into a state of euphoria, because that's what I was witnessing. I mean, people would be suspending on these hooks and I would just see them melt into these states, of euphoria. It was so intriguing, and it was really beautiful and visual. But I've always dreamed of doing a suspended shibari. Say it for me, shibari. It's not
shibari. I mean, just simple
Shibari.
shibari is a cool American way to do it.
Shibari is the way I usually say it. Yeah, shibari.
Yeah. So the
shibari is more genuine.
But I just but yeah, so people, that's one of the reasons why people like shibari, as well as a lot of aspects of BDSM, because they get that endorphin rush from the pain. That's why a lot of people are masochists, because it can put you into a hypnotic state called subspace. And to get that, and it doesn't have to involve sex. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it's just the rope work, or just the bondage aspect, or the play aspect, or the impact. I have many partners that I'm not sexual with at all, but still enjoy playing, because it's a creative expression to be able to get these wonderful brain chemicals going between the dopamines and the endorphins and the rush that comes with that, and just the adrenaline. Because I think nothing is worse than boring sex, provided that sex is definitely consensual and fulfills the fantasy of both the people involved.
Right, for sure. Yeah, for me, I feel like orgasm was never the point of sex. You know what I mean? Like that would always mean like the end, or like the orgasm was not the point of the sex. It was the journey that you're on with that person, that the moments that you're experiencing with that person, and again, that's why I feel like BDSM, that whole world, is probably so much more in tune with that aspect. So man, oh man, what else can we talk about? Courtney, do you have anything specific that you want to talk about with Dan?
Well, I mean, I do got a couple more questions. Okay, I saw this on your Twitter page. I probably gonna end up pronouncing it wrong. What is a document? Well, I know what a document is, but you said you like experience, a professional in documents.
Docent.
Oh, docent.
Yeah.
A docent. Yeah, a docent is basically a museum tour guide.
Oh.
That's a fancy word for that. And so I'm a pilot, and I really like aviation history, particularly the history of World War II, because that's when there was a lot of great innovations in terms of aviation technology very quickly, and yet not to the point where nowadays aviation, at least on the warfare side of it, is a lot of standoff weapons, so you don't even see your opponent. But in World War II, there was a lot of technology, and just the danger and the valor and the experimentation under fire, including the invention of new flying techniques and types of aircraft and engines, was so tremendous from an engineering aspect that I've always been drawn to that aspect of history, as aviation history. So now I work for a couple of aviation museums, teaching as I walk around the airplane, showing people how these planes worked.
That's so cool.
And how they flew, and what they did, and about the stories of valor of the people who flew them. And it's my honor to talk to a lot of the pilots who have served in them. So that's what a docent is.
Yeah, that's. I you know what? I had to look up the word too.
I was wondering, dude, but I was like, maybe I should just ask that on the show.
Yeah,
but you know what I love about that so much, and that's such a testament to you as a person, Dan. It's like, I mean, the idea that you're being a tour guide at an aviation museum and telling families about all of this technology, and from a point of view of your own passion about it. You know what I mean? You're a very articulate guy. You love to talk to people. You love to express yourself, which is what I love. Just the idea that this family is getting this lesson from a dom, you know, who's going home later and tying someone up. I love that. I think that's amazing.
Right. My favorite experiences have been in BDSM have been one of combined flying and BDSM. So I would like
Oh
Tell us
wow.
about that.
a dom. So for example, one time a dom wanted me to kidnap his submissive, and so he tied her up and blindfolded her and put her in my car, and then I used a tape recorder. So that wasn't my voice. I had someone record instructions on a tape recorder, just like, remain still, and no, nothing will, just very basic instructions in order that it would stop and start. And then drove down to the airport, and then left her in the car while I went and pre-flighted the airplane. And then and he had worked out the consensual aspects as far as fear of flying and this and that, and with her in advance, and so we knew that we weren't like violating any boundaries in that regard. And so this is at night. This is like after the end of Bondage a Go-Go at a club night, and so I put her in the airplane, and then we took off. So I strapped her into the airplane, and then we with the seatbelts, and then we took off. And then as soon as we took off and flew over the city, I took her blindfold off, and she was just like, "What?" And then we flew to a little airport called New Jerusalem in the Central Valley, where
Wow.
her dom was waiting with a couple of other guys in a rented U-Haul truck, or rented panel truck, not to mention brand names, but in a rented truck at this deserted. It's a runway. It's for crop dusters, and so it's out in the middle of nowhere. No lights, no anything, no tower, and so they were waiting out there. And then I landed, and then took her out of the plane, put her in the truck, and then we all did this. 3 of us did this amazing BDSM scene with her, and it was just those types of dramatic, outrageous experiences were the highlight of what I love to do in BDSM, because they take so much planning,
Right.
and
Sounds
they're
so
so
deviant.
dramatic, and they're far beyond just like, it was like her best play date ever, she said.
Right.
And then
Right.
the
Right.
fact that her dom was able to like arrange this all on her behalf,
It's amazing.
and that I was able to add the flying element to that,
Totally.
made it super exciting for all of us.
That's amazing. You have Mr. Bloxley saying, Mr. Bloxley saying thumbs up.
Right.
That I love that story, and that reminds me, I have some strange friends myself, and some friends who work in the haunt industry and are very inspired with these immersive experiences, to the point where I've done some similar things where, people kind of show up and they've just been through a kidnap situation. They're coming in blindfolded, and we're making them change clothes, and I'm in a dirty warehouse, and I'm like, playing these roles, taking pictures of them, and it's just so interesting to me what people are into. You know what I mean? And what they're looking to experience, because these people were paying for these immersive experiences
Mhm.
to be humiliated, you know what I mean, and just
Yeah.
like have makeup put on their face, like made to look like clowns, and
Yeah.
just really interesting stuff. And again, I guess that's why my mind is so open to all of this stuff, because I've experienced it, and I just know it's part of the human psyche, what people are looking for, and it's not ever surprising to me to hear usually what people are looking for.
And if you could do it in a framework that is safe and, of course, like I said, of course, at the very least, consensual, but of course, at the very least, safe. Safety third, at the very least safe, and then of course consensual, and to do it within that framework there, to allow people to experience that immersive thing, to experience an adventure that otherwise they would not have the capacity to do, and that they
Right.
because they know that at any moment they could. It's not like they're actually being kidnapped. It's not that they're actually being forced to do this. It's not like
Right.
they're actually being being in this really aggressive situation. That this is all just it's make believe,
Right.
but with the creative power that adults can bring to it.
Right. I used to always joke around like, so they feel like because they're paying you money that they're actually safe, right? but it was a lot of fun, and it was always safe. It was always very respectful and just fun. You know, a lot of interesting, fun stuff.
Yeah.
So
Communication, lubrication, reputation, and litigation.
all the
Those are
shuns.
things.
You need all the shuns. Courtney, you got any more questions for DANARAMA before we try to wrap this up?
Yes, I do. Okay. What do your friends and family think of your career in life?
I kind of lead a double life because I've got a lot of circles of friends.
Mhm.
But for the most part, for those that know all of my sides, are really supportive of the creativity I bring to all of them.
Okay.
And
Good answer.
it's just yeah. So they think yeah, it's a what I came out to my sister as kinky once I started working at kink.com, which I thought was going to be a difficult conversation to have. But she told me, and she was surprisingly nonplussed. And she told me that when I worked for kink.com, I was the happiest I'd ever been.
Hmm.
That because because when you're getting a chance to be creative and to express yourself in a way that isn't restricted by the sexual prudism that people might have, and your end result is like giving people endorphins and orgasms and showing people, sharing this knowledge with people to help them explore this to themselves, so that they know that I'm not that they don't they say they can say I'm not the only one who feels these things. I'm not weird. I can do this and can go forward and explore this in a safe and respectful manner. That is a gift that a lot of day jobs don't allow you to give to people.
Right.
True.
For sure. A lot, probably more day jobs
Yeah.
than not don't allow you
Yeah.
to give that to people. That's amazing. Well, I give you so much kudos. And again, you know, I spoke to you earlier before the show, just telling you how inspired I was doing the research for this show and coming across Harmjoy and who you are. I'd love to invite you back so we can talk more sex stuff, less music stuff. So if you're willing to come back, we'd love to have you come back. Courtney,
Okay.
again, keep going. You probably got a couple things. I don't want to push our luck
It's
here.
okay. You're good. Okay.
I
have
ramble.
it's fine. Okay, I got 2 questions left. What do people, well, I kind of know the answer to this, but what do people that are in romantic relationships think of your lifestyle?
What do people that are in romantic relationships think of my lifestyle?
Like a that's in romantic relationship with your lifestyle.
Like a monogamous relationship?
Like the people that's in relationship with you.
Oh, with me. Oh, the people that I'm in a
Oh,
relationship with.
I got you. Right.
Oh, it's they're with me because of it. You know, I tried dating vanilla for a while, but I realized that it's a waste of skills. It's sort of like if you're a great artist or a great like you, if Courtney, if you were to date somebody that had no appreciation for great artwork that you draw or had no appreciation for the things that you were into, I think it's just key for people to find. And this is very difficult for a lot of people to do, but when you can find it, it's great.
Mhm.
Is to is to get in relationships with people that at least have an understanding and respect for the skills that you have. Because
Right.
if you get into a relationship with somebody that doesn't like what you are or really gives you joy, then that is a really stifling aspect. And so I learned quite a long time ago to
Sorry,
not.
my parents, my mom is here.
I'm gonna shut the door.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
They were like
on.
out, so I let the door open for the dogs to make sure they're not alone. Sorry about that.
Okay, not a problem. The just make sure the signs of release. And but yeah, so that's it. Is that they're with me. We're with each other because they have interests that we fulfill in each other. And every partner that I have, I learn something from.
Mhm.
And the greatest gift that I give to a partner is I like to help them explore their fantasies and give them the best experience possible.
Yeah. Well, that you know what, and that ties into back to the live stream of consciousness and the spirituality thing, is loving yourself. And if you love yourself, you're less likely to get involved in a relationship where you're fulfilling someone else's needs. You're looking for a relationship that person is fulfilling your needs as well as you're fulfilling their needs, but you're not getting in a relationship and just trying to fulfill someone else's needs because it makes them happy. You also understand your own needs because of self-love, so
Right.
Yeah.
And listen to yourself, and if your partner isn't putting as much effort into filling your needs and your wishes as you are in theirs, then if you can, find something better. And I say that if you can because I realize that a lot of people it's unfortunate, but a lot of people are in toxic relationships simply because they feel that they can't find somebody else.
Yeah.
And my belief is that if you can be alone rather than with somebody like that, then you're better off alone.
Exactly.
Yep. Self-love. It's all about self-love.
Exactly. It's all about self-love and finding someone that corresponds with your own realness. I mean, with me and Stefan, which is my boyfriend, sometimes he comes in the live chat, but he's asleep. When I told him, like, hey, I'm weird, I'm into kinky clown stuff, I'm into dollfication, I'm friends with people. This is before I had my girlfriend Dahlia, and I'm friends with people that's in a relationship with dolls. How you feel about this? And this is when we started talking. He's like, you know what? I seen weirder.
Yeah.
We just clicked.
I've seen weirder.
Yeah. And to not have people deny you from that. This is like, but just say, yeah, that's okay, and being accepted of it. And even more so to give you, if not the encouragement to do that, at least the space to explore it.
Totally.
Exactly.
Totally.
And I mean, there's certain things that my boyfriend's not into, and I respect that. And there's certain things I'm not into, and he's like, I respect that.
Yeah.
I love him.
Okay. You had one more question. And
Yes,
then
I do.
No, you've got to get to sleep because your boyfriend's waiting for you.
I mean, I don't need to, but I gotta be responsible. I got a job to go to tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. This is the last question I ask everybody on the show, and Michael already knows about it.
Wait, before you ask the last question, I just want to say Mr. Bloxley is commenting, I am new to these kind of streams and being exposed to this kind of topic, but I support y'all and I agree with what you're saying, self-love. So
Oh, thank you.
it's good we touched someone's soul out there. I'm happy to say that.
Okay. Last question. Okay. If you could go back in time to meet your child self, what would you tell them and why?
What I would tell them is something that I doubt that I would have believed then, or advice I would have taken, because I mean, it's an interesting question to be able to go back and say, because if I were to go back, like, it's hard to, sometimes I think about, boy, like, at what point did I, like, if I were to say that I know things are tough now, Dan. You're going to go through a tough stretch in your late 20s. But then when you're 50, you're going to be a porn star and a rock star and be surrounded by so many beautiful people and be a part of a community that is really invigorating for you. And, I wouldn't have known what to thought. But I was so insecure and shy as a kid. The only advice I would have told myself is to be patient and to keep learning, but stuff that I already did already, like I just kept learning. I don't know what I would say to myself other than like I know it sounds trite to say, but it gets better. But
No, absolutely.
and encouragement that way, and to also not just continue to explore your creativity, because those words, exploring my creativity and finding ways to make other people happy by learning new skills, and to, in my own case, to impress, to make other people's lives happier, to like, my developing these skills is not for me because I want to hurt people or I want to do this or I want to tie people up. I'm trying to help partners of mine realize their fantasies, because I'm still acting. This is what it is. You just helped me discover it. Thank you for the free therapy session. Is that everything that I've done as far as BDSM has been to make myself feel worthy of this person's affection. And that what I would tell myself as younger is that you are worthy of love.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Wonderful. I love it. Courtney, do you have anything to add to that? Because those are some wonderful words. I have 2 words that I want to say, but I want you to go first.
I would say, I'm kind of speechless.
Dan, you have an amazing story. Congratulations on all of your achievements and who you are, and thank you so much for being here. The 2 words that I want to say that everything that you just wrapped up inspired is stay fearless, be fearless. That's all I have to say. This world is strange and wonderful, and if you are strange and wonderful, you are a part of it, and you are an important part of it. So be yourself. That's what I have to say. Next week, who do we got coming on here, Courtney?
Next week we have my author friend. He is an author of horror literature and erotica. His name is D.L. Holmes.
D.L. Holmes. Awesome. Looking forward to that. Again, DANARAMA, thank you so much for being so strange and wonderful. Looking forward to having you back. And thank you for all the love, all you people out there being so strange and wonderful. We'll see you next week. Dan, hang on while I run the outro, and we'll talk to you afterwards.
Stay
Great. Thanks,
weird.
everyone.
You're welcome. And stay weird and wonderful, my beautiful peeps.
Peace.